Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris Gennaro. My co-host today is Eric Rizk, down there in the lower left. Our guest today is Replicant from my home state of New Jersey. Why don't you guys introduce yourself and maybe let us know what you do in the band?
Sure. My name's Pete. I play guitar.
Hello, my name's James, and I hit the drums.
Okay, great. So the first thing I was going to ask you guys and was about the name Replicant. Because the first thing it makes me think of is Blade Runner, of course. Is that where it came from?
Got it.
Okay.
Big sci-fi nerds, for sure. So
yeah. So yeah, I'm a total sci-fi guy myself. And then I saw that you guys just did a split, and you've got kind of a spaceship on the cover. I mean, I assume that wasn't necessarily your choice, but nice, to have sci-fi represented there.
Definitely.
You want to talk about the new split? Because I was kind of expecting it to be all local bands, and when I started looking into everybody, it was like, there was a band from Ohio, one from Europe. So how did that all come together?
Yeah, so Astral Tomb, I believe, are from Colorado. They actually reached out to us a few months ago and asked, they were like kind of putting out a split with this Desert Wasteland Productions, who are predominantly like a cassette label. And they were like, they just asked if we were at any interest, and they kind of, yep, there it is. And they mentioned Inoculation and Cryptic Shift, and we were like, yeah, like always down to like do some cool, like some cool stuff, some cool bands. We had actually played with Inoculation before, like great bands. Yeah, so we actually had a song that was going to go on the next album, but we decided to just record it early and use that for the split. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, the cassette came out really well. Like, the artwork is great. The art direction was cool. Like, yeah, I think it was actually like a painting from like the 60s that's like under a Creative Commons license, so like you can kind of use it.
Okay.
For whatever. I forget the name of the artist. It's like, man, I can't remember. But,
yeah, it's definitely got that 60s vibe to it, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So like like the new Blood Incantation album cover, like with the aliens and like the kind of like weird like geometric shapes on it. It's like similar to that, where like anyone can use that artwork, because it's like this Creative Commons license. But yeah, and it was really cool, and we're really happy that we got to be a part of it.
Awesome.
And it looked like the LP is on a different label though, Heavenly Body.
Yeah, so Heavenly Body did like a limited run of the LPs. And then I think they're actually talking to another label now about doing like a larger repress, because I guess it was pretty well received. So
awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. It's something that just kind of came at, like started as like this, like, oh, like you guys like, down for this? It's like turning into like this big, like, like this cool thing. So.
And it's not your first split, because I know the Welcome to New Jersey one had another Perth Amboy band on it as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was looking at their name and I was like, oh boy, I'm going to butcher this one. For sure. But you guys only had 3 tracks on that, where it seemed to be more like that was their EP, So my guess is that they invited you for that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that was like one of their first like kind of major releases, since they only started maybe like, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. Charlie, Carlos, the main dude in Bedlam. They started out as kind of like Bedlam, but then there's like a million bands called Bedlam, I think. So then they're like, oh, like let's just like metal it up a little bit, turn it into Botlam, and now it's like Botlam Bedlam.
Or Bat Lamp.
Bat Lamb.
You can spell Bat Lamp with emojis, which that one's got my vote.
All right. How do you spell it with emojis? How does that work?
You put a bat and then you put a lamp.
Oh, I got it.
Half the fun of the band is coming up with your own interpretation of the name. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, I feel like anybody, it's like a rite of passage with metal bands, is to like come up with a really cool name and then, look it up on the internet and figure out that there's 50 other bands that already have that name and.
Yes, exactly. That's actually kind of what happened with Replicant, because we were trying to come up with a name for the band, and we had like everything's taken. And then I just typed in Replicant in Metal Archives, and there was a band called Replicant Zero, but no Replicant. So I was like, well, if they're not in Metal Archives, then we should be all right.
Yeah.
Have fun.
I can't tell you, man. The last rec band I worked with, can you believe there's another band called Led Zeppelin? Ridiculous. I thought if I misspelt it, I was in the clear, but no. It's ridiculous.
Oh, is there another band called Led Zeppelin with an A?
No, he's kidding. He's joking around.
There is now.
I'm
Now.
sure.
That could be your band. That would
Yeah.
be good. Yeah, that's funny. They would definitely sue you for that.
Yeah, no, I don't think you could get away with that.
It's too
Um,
similar.
But yeah,
Okay.
to answer your question though, the Welcome to New Jersey split was more like they had asked us if we wanted to be a part of it. Because they were just starting out and they were like, maybe like if we, kind of did something together, it would kind of help like get us going. So we had the one song for that we also was kind of like a song that was potentially going to be on the album. And then we like added like this weird like noisy like intro track, and then we did a Burnt by the Sun cover because we're trying to be extremely New Jersey.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna ask about the connection with them. Do you guys know them or see them, or was that or were they an influence at any point, or was it just because literally they were from New Jersey?
A little bit of both. I mean, I don't know any of the guys in that band personally, but I mean, like, I just like love all that stuff that, that early 2000s kind of like metalcore, hard, like kind of relapse stuff. And, just a big fan of that first record. So when we were trying to like think of like a song to cover, I was like, oh, it has to be Burnt by the Sun cover. It just makes so much sense. So
Yeah, and that first track though it's funny because I definitely clicked on it because it was called Exit 9, and I'm from New Jersey, obviously, and I as much as I hate to say, everybody lives on an exit, I definitely know Exit 9.
yes.
But it was weird because that was definitely a track that wasn't like, at least it didn't start off like super death metal. I mean, it did some, I don't know what, I don't want to call it experimental, but it was, it was definitely not what I was expecting having listened to your other stuff.
Yeah, we try to incorporate some kind of like noisy or spacier sounds every now and again. Like Negative Life has a track that's kind of similar to that, and we've kind of been we always like work them into the songs. Well, not always, but like we try to work them into the songs when they're appropriate. But yeah, every now and again, like I'll just like grab a bunch of like weird pedals and just start making noises, and if a cool noise track that kind of like ties things together comes out, then and again, like sticking with the New Jersey theme, it's like in New Jersey, then Exit 9 is New Brunswick, which is where we're from, and then again, it's just like this stupid New Jersey centric thing.
Yeah, you go right to New Brunswick, left to East Brunswick.
Exactly.
So I saw a bunch of studio stuff. I don't have any of it written down, but do you guys ever record your own stuff, or is it all strictly going into the studio?
Yeah, actually, we only recorded our own stuff until the EP we did last year, the Hypochondria of the Machine EP. Mm-hmm. So that's actually the first time we ever recorded with somebody else. Before that, I had pretty much done everything. Wow. So we have a studio in New Brunswick, and I pretty much tracked and recorded everything for like Negative Life and Worthless Desires and for the splits. And then starting with the Hypochondria EP, we did it at this place called Frightbox in Clifton, and with our friend Bobby, and it went really well. And it was nice to kind of like give up a little bit of the engineering control and just be the musician for once. So
that's cool.
It's cool.
I saw you worked with the mastering engineer. We worked with him too, Alan Douches.
Oh yeah,
he's good. Yeah. He's good.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. He's great. Super nice guy, fun to work with. Like, has a million hilarious stories.
Yeah, he has a lot of good stories. We went to the studio and sat there with Flourishing when he was mastering the stuff. So yeah, he's a good guy. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, yeah. I should note that I didn't do the mastering. I just did the tracking and the mixing.
Okay, cool.
And Alan did the mastering.
Did you have any live stuff lined up before all this hit? The coronavirus stuff hit? Were you having shows they were going to do?
Definitely, yeah. We had a bunch of shows booked for like the spring and summer.
Okay.
We didn't have any like full like tours, so we didn't have to worry about like rescheduling or canceling like full blown tours. I think there was like some like long weekenders, cool, but nothing like major. So.
Are you going to reschedule that, or when stuff?
I hope so.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're still trying to figure out like what the plan, like the game plan is for the world, I should say North America.
Sure.
For like, you know, winter / into next year.
Yeah.
Before we like kind of decide on like any dates again.
It makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, I saw that you guys went on a Canadian tour at some point. And who was that? Was that with just you guys, or were you in support of somebody, or did you have another band going with you?
Yeah, so there's this awesome band from Quebec called Spirit of Rebellion. They're kind of like, I don't know, they're kind of like a modern death metal band with a bunch of like old school influences. They're just like a really solid death metal band, and we did about 7 of the 11 shows with them. And like we just kind of like flipped like who was headlining.
Oh, that's cool. And then they
Yeah.
took care of the booking and stuff.
Exactly, yeah. So they did all the booking, and so at the time we were on a label called PRC, which is based in I guess in the Montreal area. And Remy,
okay.
the guy who owns PRC, pretty much worked with Spirit of Rebellion to like book all the shows for us, which was super awesome of them. And then we did like 7 shows with Spirit and a few like off shows in different provinces.
So I assume you were like label mates or something at the time.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, they're on PRC as well.
Cool. And I guess, yeah, I've never played any Canadian dates like around what you're talking about, but I heard metal is well received in Montreal and the surrounding area. It's like good turnout, good response, real enthusiastic crowd.
Yeah, they're definitely like metal freaks up there, which is awesome.
Good.
Yeah, we played a few shows, in a city called Rimouski, which is about like 6 hours northeast of Montreal, and like the metalheads there will tell you that in the 90s that was like the spot in Canada. Like Death and Suffo and Gorguts, they would all just like skip Montreal and Quebec City and just go right to Rimouski, and there'd be like hundreds of people for like these death metal shows.
Wow.
So it was like the spot, and like every time we played there, it's been awesome. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
a lot of fun. That was one of the things we were supposed to do this year that ended up not happening, was like a Canadian tour again.
Going back to Canada, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Ever go to like to the West Coast or anything?
In Canada or in the US?
Well, both, I guess, either or.
No, not yet. That was also like one of our like kind of plans, was to do like a California, Seattle, like Washington, kind of Oregon thing, and then like sneak into Vancouver. But I think we're gonna try to like figure out like more so like again like next year like how the world is, and kind of like try to support our next album. So like
would you have to book all that stuff yourself or work with a booking agent?
I mean, we do most of it ourselves, but I think like if we were gonna try to do something that was like a little more logistically involved, like we probably would reach out to a booking agent.
And then what would you have to like contact more local bands and stuff? You know, because I would just hate to like book a date and then you you have a draw maybe in one city or another city, but maybe there's a third city where you don't have a draw, and you wake up and play for nobody. I've definitely done shows playing for nobody, and it is not fun.
Oh yeah, especially when you drive like 10 hours to play for nobody.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Like it's always a cool feeling when you're looking around and you're like, there's the other band we're playing with, and that's all we got today. All right, here we go.
Yeah. That's your the band you're playing with and the audience all in one. It's all.
Yeah.
But those shows are awesome because like you just look around and you're like, all right, like there's 2 POVs, right? You can be like, oh well, this sucks. I drove all this way and I'm playing in front of Mark, or it can be like, yo, screw it, yo, Mark, check this out. And you go ape, and those are the shows, and those are the moments you really like remember.
I'll definitely never forget playing in front of like just another band and or maybe 2 other bands and their 2 friends and girlfriends, but and like you're right, you definitely have to just say screw it and just have fun with it. But then there's like the icy stare of the show promoter that you just sort of got to block out of your mind and just pretend he's not there, not getting paid,
I've got a related story, not involving Replicant. I'll be really fast. So a couple years ago, I booked a tour, and the headliner was a bigger band. So we booked all the dates, and we were playing a city we had never played, and it was their first time in the States. So we were in, I think it was like North Carolina. And this promoter reached out to us beforehand. He's like, it's a sellout. It's going to be great. It's like a 300, 400 person venue. And we're all super stoked. Yeah. We get there. the local bands bought all their own tickets and didn't sell any of them
Oh,
because
no.
they figured the draw would be huge. So they ended up, nobody was there.
Oh, shit.
This
You say
big,
they bought all their own tickets, like actually paid for them, or
yeah,
just?
I watched them hand them the envelope,
Right.
and they were like, "This is going to be great. We're going to
Wow.
get a good slot on the show." And we're like,
To who?
"There's no possible way anyone's going to be here." That was fun. That was the best show of that tour,
Okay.
because we were just like, "Screw it, we just got it. We got to enjoy it."
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I've definitely had bad stories working with show promoters and stuff, where, because back in the day, I don't know if it's still like this, and I'm probably showing my age, but, you used to have to go for these local shows, you would go and you'd say who you were there for, so
They still do that, yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
so
they
you
definitely still do that.
tablet, and you'd be like, oh, you guys, you only had, you only had 10 people say your name at the door, and the other band had 5, and you had 6, but you're like, well, yeah, but there's 200 people here, so what does that mean? They're here to see you? Like,
That's one of the benefits of having your own counter at the door hanging out, because you can make sure that works. One cool thing that I've noticed in the last, maybe 5 or 6 years, and it's probably been like this longer, but in the last 5, 6 years for me, when we have people come through, they'll keep a tally at the door of who's coming for who, but they don't use that as to determine payout, because people are like, yeah, the band from Illinois drew 2 people tonight, but they came from Illinois. They can have our check out of the door,
You're right. They have all the gas and
yeah. And people, they tend to be pretty cool about it. So it's almost like karma, because I know when
That's
we do
nice.
shows with bands that are coming from far, we're like, oh, well, take it. You drove really far.
That's
It's
good.
going to help. And it makes it more likely they can come back.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely cool if you have a situation where you could go to their hometown and play in front of their fans, and then they can come over and play in front of yours.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
So are you guys currently rehearsing now, and what are you doing with your band? Just no band practice at all?
No, we haven't had practice since March.
Oh, damn.
It's been a minute, but we actually wrote and have been recording the new record, so
Awesome.
we're just doing everything remotely.
That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
How
so
many songs?
I guess that answers the question, are you going into the studio for your next record?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're actually looking at the studio behind James.
Oh, that's the studio.
Oh, yes. Well, this is
Okay.
the drum studio.
Okay.
It was a pretty cool, fun process of calling up my friends with audio equipment and just being like, listen, we're cutting an album. I'm going to figure it out. Do you have mics I can borrow? And a lot of the stuff is Pete's from the studio. And then a lot of it is also our good friend Ben, who was just like, of course you can. Brother, it's no problem.
Yeah.
And,
Awesome.
Take all our stuff.
Okay.
yeah, so
You didn't
now
tell
I've
them when you were going to give it back, though, right?
Well, I mean, it was never written down. So you're looking at a really nice investment by me. This is great.
So is that your apartment or something, or are you in the rehearsal space?
So I'm in a basement of where I'm currently living.
Okay.
And I basically just put, I put some soundproofing on the walls behind the black sheets, because I also do live streams and stuff like that. And then just experimented and put in, I think we talked about doing this in June. So I put several hundred or dozens of whatever hours into mic placement, into where it would benefit, where it would work the best. And I can send you maybe some footage if you want of what it looks like. But this is the exact angles we use, the exact everything.
Cool.
And I imagine that you guys would then have to use the same, I guess you don't really have to use the same software, but I'm sure it probably doesn't hurt to be using the same software.
We figured it all out.
Yeah, that was actually part of the fun, is trying to, because Mike and I do a lot of the pre-production, right? And then I use a DAW called Studio One, and Mike uses a DAW called Reaper, and then James has Pro Tools and Logic.
Pro.
Yeah. So now we're all just bouncing down waves and importing waves and then sending the waves back, and then just it was again a bit of a trial and error and a bit of a process.
But it's definitely cool that you adjusted, because I mean, if it was not the current situation, you'd obviously probably be all in a studio recording. But that's good that you didn't let this slow you down, and you're just going and going. That's great.
Yeah.
How many songs are you going to record for the new album?
10.
Awesome. Awesome.
You know, unless the coronavirus lasts, the pandemic lasts another 2 years, in which case maybe it'll be a double album.
Yeah.
No way, don't say that. Don't even put that out there. That'd be bad.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely been a bummer because we do like the way we kind of like work on songs is we try to write, you know, like a good 30 to 50% of a song. Like me or Mike will write like a lot, like a half of a song, and we'll bring it into the rehearsal space and kind of like add some improv-y stuff or like add some kind of like just, you know, like whatever we're like feeling and just kind of like work out ideas together. So, you know, it was definitely a challenge not being able to do that at all. Like obviously we were able to send like riffs back and forth to each other through like, you know, email, or we use like an app called Telegram. So like we're sending each other ideas. We're doing like a screen share like this, you know, with like literally sitting here with my guitar and like, well, is this good? Or like, what do you think if it was like this? Like, this would be sick, right? You know, so it's definitely not as collaborative, and, you know, it's definitely takes a little bit away from like the creative process. But, you know, I'm really happy with all the songs that we came up with. Like we, you know, we were actually at James's place, like recording drums. Like we all had our masks on and we were just like sitting there, like, you know, recording drums, and you know, like all the drums like sound awesome now, and like, you know, they all sound awesome, like, you know, so it's definitely, you know, it's just like what you got to do to keep the train rolling. So
That makes sense.
Okay. So you did get together at some point then.
yes, yeah, we've seen each other, but
Okay.
we just haven't actually like rehearsed in the studio.
Okay. Because I was going to ask you, like, at some point, if you're doing it all remotely, then somebody's got to be first, right? It's either got to be guitars first or drum first, right? There's got to be a first. And then do you play to a click track, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've done records without clicks, and they can work, but for metal, it generally like, yeah, you're laughing because you're just like, I know exactly the nightmares that come up from that, because, you know, as much as you practice, when you're doing it, you're gonna rush, you're gonna drag. So having a click helps, and it makes it sound a bit tighter, which I definitely like. Like, obviously everybody's heard of Meshuggah. They actually use a click live, and you can hear when they started using the click because they got infinitely tighter with their live shows. Because like when they were playing their stuff before, up until like, I guess maybe either 2004 or maybe 2008 or 2009, when it's like that 5-year gap, they started using the click and live, and they became the ferocious monster that's impossible to replicate, you know?
Yeah.
You listen to their stuff and you definitely know that there's, you know, a click track going on there. And it's funny when I look back at my stuff, because I still have a lot of it on the computer, you can definitely see from where you go live to where you go to a click, because then you've got the ability to cut and paste everything, right? So instead of one long track, you know, all of a sudden you're seeing and you know, the same part cut and paste into different places, and you know, those transitions that you just hope you don't hear anything, and usually they're pretty smooth, which is a blessing.
Yeah.
But it is funny. Okay, so when do you? I mean, I don't know. You guys probably don't want to commit to a time, but when do you think your next record's going to be ready?
Well, so yeah, we're tracking it now. So we're hoping to have it like all finished, I guess, by like the, you know, like late fall. So like October, November. So we signed to a label called Transcending Obscurity Records.
Oh, cool.
And then so I think we don't have a date set, but we're thinking like, I don't know, like spring maybe. Spring.
Like the confidence.
But it's still that's a ways off though. So that's you guys have plenty of time to make that deadline.
Yeah. We're actually in like a good spot right now, and like we're trying to keep everything like on track, and like we're gonna start recording guitars in like a week, and then, you know, the rest of it, and we're gonna actually master with Colin. So
hey, Colin, yeah, he's great.
Yeah, awesome.
So are you gonna reuse any of the tracks that you had on the split stuff, or is it just gonna be completely new stuff?
Completely new stuff, yeah. So yeah, the stuff that ended up going on the splits that were gonna be for the album, we just wrote 2 new songs instead.
Okay.
So it's
Well,
like
those bands probably are appreciative of that because, you know, I figure if you once you reuse the track, then the split becomes, you know, not as enticing to go check out.
Totally. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just checking my notes for different stuff. We said before, yeah, one note is the Michael used to play guitar and then he switched to bass.
Yes.
Because it looks like you lost a bass player.
Yep. So yeah, so Mike and James are actually in another band together called Windfarer, and Mike plays guitar in Windfarer. So like going back a little bit, me and Mike used to be in a band called Painted Rust, which is like a kind of Brooklyn-based, I guess in the same genre, like same vein, like kind of experimental, like death metal. It's just kind of like real weird death metal stuff. And then when Painted Rust kind of stopped, we wanted to keep going with that style. So originally, Mike was going to play. Me and Mike were going to both play guitar, and we had another guy playing bass named Dan, and Dan ended up moving. So then we got our friend Tom, who's been in if you look him up on Metal Archives, he's in like 1,000 bands. He's in most notably, I guess, he's in that band Death Fortress. They're like a black metal band from New Jersey that put out a few albums. But Tom was playing bass for about a year. And all of a sudden he was like, you know what? I'm like death metal is cool and all, but he's like, I don't really want to play shows. I just want to like write all these black metal albums in my apartment. And we were like, all good, man. So Mike was just like, whatever, I'll just play bass.
But that messes with your live show, right? Because all of a sudden you had two. You know, for recording you can do whatever you want, but when you show up live, then where you had two guitars, now you only have one.
Definitely, because a lot of the songs on the first EP also had like left and right guitar parts. So there were some harmonies, you know, some melodies, some harmonies, some parts where like the guitars are doing a little bit different things, and obviously like that, you know, is gone. So yeah, at first it was like, should we just do like a three-piece? You know, should we get another bass player and or another guitar player? You know, and we played a few shows as a three-piece, and we were just like, oh, this is so great. It's just like so much easier to operate as a band, you know. Yeah. It's just like, can you do the show? Yes. Can you do the show? Yes. It's like, all right, cool, we're in. We like need minimal gear. Yeah. You know, we can all like take like a large car if we have to. You know, I like on our live show, like I use lots of pedals. So like I'm always like hitting pedals, doing this, doing that. You know, like to kind of fill out the sound. And we've also been talking about like doing more of like an A/B thing with like some stereo, you know, getting like another half stack and like using like an A/B switch and like, you know, having like an actual stereo sound. And I have some I have like loopers and delays and stuff. So like if we really wanted to get like real like kind of fancy with it, but
yeah, the A/B boxes are pretty cool actually. Like our when Flourishing played, that's our setup. Garrett had two half stacks, different things dialed in, and just ran them both through the A/B.
Yeah, exactly. Side note, I still listen to The Sum of All Fossils very regularly.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I love that album. It's like one of my favorite records.
Wow, thank you so much.
2000s, yeah. So.
Yeah, those were good times. I miss those shows, the Lit shows, the Charleston shows. Those were good times.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully, when everything gets back, start playing some shows again. That'd be nice. Yeah. That'd be nice. We played Gold Sounds. Hopefully, that makes it. Vitus is there. I don't know what else. I mean, I guess the Kingsland hopefully makes it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, like Lucky 13.
Lucky 13.
Oh, that's right, Lucky 13. Lucky 13. Hopefully they make it too.
Yeah. Not to flip the interview on you, but is there any new Abertine stuff coming out?
Oh, all right. Well, we have a full-length album. It is done. It is being mixed. There's a label involved, but I don't want to say it yet, just because we didn't make the announcement or make it.
Yeah.
So basically, I believe, though, if all goes well and the world doesn't end, we don't get hit by an asteroid or crazy virus kills us all, it'll be out, I'm guessing sometime next year. But I don't have a release date, but yes. So yeah, we'll have a full-length album out, and so it should be good. So I think the timing will be good, too, then. So yeah, hopefully if everything clears out, we'll be able to play shows to support it and all that other stuff.
Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah, I love the EP, the two-song
thank
EP
you.
from last. Yeah. So very stoked.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I was going to ask you guys before I figured out earlier that you guys don't actually live in New Brunswick any longer was that, I don't get to go to a lot of shows. Clearly you can see by my great beard that I'm old, and I got just a killer job. But I had been to a couple basement shows in New Brunswick, and that was like super cool.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you guys had done any of those basement shows, or is that something, I would figure that that's your home base, although I got to figure that you would draw probably enough people to make that really, really crowded at this point.
Yeah. So I've played, not even an exaggeration, like hundreds of shows in those basements over the years.
Okay.
So I went to Rutgers, and I was in like a hardcore, like a crossover band, I guess, that used to play like in New Brunswick probably like once a week, like in a basement once a week for like years. And like Distribute used to play in basement shows all the time. Like Painted Rust played in some basements. Replicants played in a few over the last few years. So like I guess like my point of reference is really like 2007 to like 2014 or 15. That's like when, at least for me, it was like a lot of basement shows were going, especially like 2009 to 2012. Like I was at a show like every week. We were playing shows every week. They were doing a lot of metal and hardcore shows then. I think now the scene is mostly kind of like indie rock or just kind of like more indie stuff in general. So like the last time Replicant played in a basement was maybe 2 summers ago, and it was pretty cool. It was that band Pink Mass. They're like kind of a band from around here, and it was another band on tour that name escapes me, but it was pretty cool. But maybe like 40, 50 people, but it wasn't like it used to be back, in like the early 2010s.
So you think the scene's gotten less metal?
I think so.
I don't know if those two scenes are related, like the rock scene. Like I don't think if there's a rise of the rock scene and a decline of the metal scene, that those two things would have to be related.
Yeah.
But
it's just New Brunswick is it like comes and goes in waves. Like sometimes there's a ton of shows, sometimes there wasn't. Sometimes like metal and hardcore were huge, and sometimes it was more like indie. Like I was around like when the Screaming Females were kind of getting started, so like there was like a big scene around Screaming Females, and then there was like a big scene around like a lot of hardcore. So I mean, again, like I'm also a little, a little out of touch now. Like I'm not like in that area or that scene anymore. So I could be totally wrong. There could be like some crazy metal shows going on all the time.
Well, I don't think anything's going on right now, but
well, yeah, we'll say pre-COVID. There could have been like lots of really, cool metal things going on. But yeah, I mean, it was always a great time. Like it was a great community, a lot of like awesome people. Everyone was really respectful of like the houses and the shows, and it was very like like if a band would come from out of state, you would get them a show, and then you'd go on tour and they would get you a show in their basement, and like a lot of like really cool like connections and friendships were made, and like you got to like by having all these bands come through New Brunswick, you always got to like whenever you were on tour, like you knew you can rely on the people in those bands to like get you like a cool like show, and they would like put you up and cook you food, and it was really it was really nice like community, like a real good vibe. So it was a good time for sure.
Wow. Awesome.
Cool. Eric, do you have anything else?
I got nothing else. Do you guys have anything you want to promote in the guys wrapping it up, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so we have like that the Chasm of Aeons cassette. Yeah, we got a few of those left. I don't know. I don't know if the cassettes are going to be reprinted. I know like the LPs are, and like another label again, like there might be a wider release for the LPs. But yeah, I mean, thanks so much for having us. It's been a lot of fun chatting. Always love talking about metal.
Yeah, because I did because when you said you were on Transcending Obscurity, are they going to release any of your back catalog, or how does that all work? Or is that still those respective labels still are going to press your stuff, and then it would just be like from here forward?
I think mostly from here forward. So yeah, so like PRC, like they did the Negative Life stuff, and I think like and the Worthless Desires. So if we ended up ever doing something with that in the future, like maybe like another label who would want to put it out, like they would just have to talk to PRC about like, you know, whatever kind of licensing. I don't know, like whatever like the agreement would be. But yeah, so like the Transcending Obscurity stuff is like from this new album forward though. Yeah, so yeah, so hopefully sometime, you know, like spring, summer next year, there'll be a new one.
Awesome. Look forward to checking that out. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cool.
It's gonna be
Cool.
fun.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show. Yeah, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it. You know, tell Mike or Mike. Does he go by Mike or Michael?
Mike. Mr. Gonsalves.
Okay, so if we do this again, maybe we'll make sure he gets on. Yeah, no, good luck, guys. I really appreciate you joining us for the call. As always, I'll put all the links on the bottom for everything that you could possibly want to listen to. And that's it. I appreciate it, and I'll probably get this posted tomorrow.
Cool.
Sick.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Chris and Eric, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Take
Okay.
care.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to end the call. I'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Sounds good. Have a great night.
Thanks.
See ya.